At an age when most actors cling tightly to legacy, reputation, and relevance, one of Hollywood's most recognizable leading men chose a radically different path. Not because he had to, but because he wanted to. He wasn't pushed out by scandal, nor did he fade quietly into obscurity. Instead, he stepped away from the very system that had elevated him to global stardom. This is the story of a man who wants to find charm, romance, and desirability on screen, yet ultimately rejected the machinery of fame in pursuit of something far less visible, yet far more meaningful. For decades, he stood at the center of Hollywood's spotlight. His films shaped pop culture, his presence commanded attention, and his persona became synonymous with elegance and magnetism. He could have continued indefinitely, riding the wave of prestige and financial success. But instead, he made a series of choices that would gradually distance him from the industry and from the rewards it offered. Today, his life looks nothing like the glittering image people remember. He lives quietly, focused on family, spirituality, and humanitarian causes. His journey raises difficult questions. What does it mean to succeed? What is worth sacrificing? And how does someone willingly walk away from everything others spend their lives chasing? To understand those answers, we have to begin long before fame back, when he was simply a restless boy searching for meaning. A restless childhood in a quiet town long before fame found him. His story began in modest surroundings. Born in Philadelphia and raised in a small town in upstate New York, he grew up in a household defined not by wealth or status, but by values, compassion, discipline, and curiosity. His father worked in insurance, but carried himself with the moral conviction of a spiritual guide. His mother nurtured a home filled with warmth and creativity. It was an environment that emphasized empathy over ambition, service over success. From an early age, he showed signs of being different, not rebellious, but deeply introspective. While other children followed predictable paths, he seemed driven by questions that didn't have easy answers. He was drawn to music, learning multiple instruments, and excelled in gymnastics, demonstrating both physical discipline and artistic sensitivity. Yet beneath these achievements lay a quiet dissatisfaction, a sense that something essential was missing. School came easily to him, but it didn't fulfill him. He wasn't just interested in doing well, he wanted to understand life itself. Why people suffered, what purpose meant, whether happiness was something one could truly attain. These weren't typical concerns for a teenager, yet they shaped his world, early on. This restlessness would become a defining trait. It wasn't something to be fixed or ignored. It was something that would guide him, pushing him toward choices that others might find irrational, even self-destructive. But for him, it was simply the beginning of a lifelong search for meaning. Philosophy, doubt, and the search for meaning when he entered university. He didn't choose a practical field or a clear career path. Instead, he studied philosophy, a decision that reflected his inner landscape more than any external ambition. He immersed himself in complex ideas about existence, reality, and identity, drawn to thinkers who challenged conventional assumptions about life. But academic study didn't bring clarity. If anything, it intensified his uncertainty. The more he read, the more he realized how little he understood. The structured environment of college began to feel restrictive, even suffocating. It offered answers, but not the ones he was seeking. He found himself questioning everything: religion, society, success, even his own sense of self. The beliefs he had grown up with no longer felt sufficient. They were meaningful, but incomplete. He needed something more experiential, something that went beyond theory and into lived understanding. Eventually, the tension became too much. After 2 years, he made a decision that would unsettle many around him. He dropped out. No degree, no safety net, no clear direction, just a determination to follow his instincts, wherever they might lead. It wasn't a rejection of education, but of limitation. He wasn't abandoning learning, he was redefining it. His classroom would no longer be confined to lecture halls. It would be the world itself. And soon, that world would lead him somewhere entirely unexpected, into the realm of performance, storytelling, and eventually fame. The struggling actor, passion without security after leaving college, he moved to New York City, a place where ambition thrives but security is scarce. There, he began pursuing acting, not as a calculated career move, but as a form of expression. It allowed him to explore identity, emotion, and human experience in a way philosophy never could. But the early years were far from glamorous. He took small roles in theater productions, often earning barely enough to survive. There were times he slept in his car, uncertain of where his next opportunity would come from. Rejection was constant, and success felt distant. Still, he persisted. Acting wasn't just a job, it was a calling. It gave him a sense of purpose, a way to channel his inner restlessness into something tangible. Each performance, no matter how small, felt like a step toward understanding himself and the world around him. Gradually, people began to notice. His presence on stage carried a quiet intensity, a depth that set him apart. He wasn't just performing, he was searching, even in character. These early struggles shaped him profoundly. They taught him resilience, humility, and detachment from external validation. Ironically, the hardships that could have discouraged him instead prepared him for what was coming next: sudden, overwhelming success. Because when fame finally arrived, it didn't come slowly, it came all at once. Overnight fame and the birth of a star. When his breakthrough finally came, it changed everything almost instantly. Within a short span of time, he went from an unknown actor to a recognizable face, and then to a full-fledged star. His performances resonated with audiences, and his screen presence captivated viewers around the world. He embodied a unique combination of charm, vulnerability, and intensity. He wasn't just attractive, he was compelling. People didn't just watch him, they were drawn to him. His roles elevated him to the status of a global icon, and soon he became one of the most sought after leading men in the industry. With success came everything that Hollywood promises: wealth, recognition, influence, and admiration. He was featured in major films, celebrated at prestigious events, and adored by fans across continents. On the surface, it seemed like he had achieved everything one could possibly want. But internally, something felt off. The fame that others craved felt strangely hollow to him. The attention, the expectations, the constant pressure to maintain an image, it all began to conflict with the introspective, searching person he had always been. He had reached the top, but instead of satisfaction, he felt a growing disconnect. The question that had followed him since childhood returned with greater urgency: is this all there is? And just as his career was reaching new heights, his personal journey took a turn that would change everything. A spiritual awakening in the Himalayas. In the midst of rising fame, he traveled to Nepal, a trip that would redefine his life. There, surrounded by the stillness of the mountains and the presence of spiritual practitioners, he encountered a philosophy that spoke directly to his deepest questions. He began studying Buddhism, immersing himself in its teachings and practices. Meditation became a daily discipline, offering him something he had long sought: inner clarity and peace. For the first time, he felt grounded not by external success, but by internal understanding. This wasn't a passing interest or a superficial curiosity. It became central to his identity. He spent extended periods in study and practice, learning from spiritual teachers and integrating their teachings into his daily life. The contrast between his inner world and his public life grew sharper. On screen, he portrayed desire, ambition, and drama. Off-screen, he was learning detachment, compassion, and stillness. This duality created tension, but also direction. He began to see that his life didn't have to conform to expectations. He could choose a different path, even if it meant sacrificing everything he had built. And soon, that choice would be tested in a way that would alter the course of his career forever. Speaking out and facing consequences as his spiritual beliefs deepened, so did his sense of responsibility. He became increasingly vocal about human rights issues, particularly those connected to his spiritual community. What began as personal conviction soon became public advocacy. He used his platform to speak openly about injustice, even when it involved powerful institutions. It wasn't a calculated move, it was a moral one. He believed that silence in the face of suffering was not an option. But in an industry driven by profit and global markets, his stance carried consequences. Major studios began to distance themselves. Opportunities that once came easily started to disappear. Projects were shelved, roles were reassigned, and his presence in big-budget films declined significantly. At the same time, one of the world's largest markets effectively shut its doors to him. His name became controversial, his involvement risky from a business perspective. He understood the cost, but accepted it. For him, integrity mattered more than career longevity. He wasn't interested in maintaining success at the expense of his beliefs. If speaking truth meant losing opportunities, then so be it. This marked a turning point not just in his career, but in how he defined success itself. Love, relationships, and personal growth, while his professional life became more complicated. His personal life evolved in equally significant ways. He experienced high-profile relationships that attracted intense media attention, often overshadowing the deeper aspects of his journey. One of his most notable relationships seemed, from the outside, like a perfect match, two successful individuals navigating fame together. But beneath the surface, differences in age, priorities, and personal growth created challenges that couldn't be ignored. Over time, the relationship ended, not with scandal, but with the quiet realization that love alone isn't always enough. Growth sometimes requires separation, and understanding that can be as painful as it is necessary. These experiences shaped him. They taught him about compromise, identity, and the importance of authenticity in relationships. He learned that connection cannot be sustained by image or expectation. It must be rooted in truth. Eventually, he found a different kind of partnership, one grounded in shared values, mutual respect, and a quieter, more intentional way of living. This phase of his life marked a shift from external validation to internal fulfillment, a theme that would continue to define his journey. Aging, fatherhood, and a new perspective in his later years, he embraced a role that brought him more fulfillment than any film ever could: fatherhood. Raising young children at an age when most people are slowing down presented challenges. but also profound joy. It required patience, energy, and presence. His priorities shifted completely. The demands of Hollywood no longer held the same weight as the simple, everyday moments of family life. He became more selective about work, often choosing projects that aligned with his values or allowed him to maintain balance. Fame was no longer the goal, presence was. Physically, aging brought its own realities. The stamina that once defined him began to fade, but it was replaced by something deeper: perspective. He no longer needed to prove anything. He had already lived multiple lives within one lifetime. Now, his focus was on being present for his children, his partner, and himself. This stage of life revealed something essential: that fulfillment isn't found in constant achievement, but in meaningful connection. Redefining success and legacy. Looking back, his journey challenges conventional ideas about success. He had everything: fame, wealth, influence, and chose to step away from it, not because he failed, but because he redefined what success meant to him. For many, success is measured by visibility, accolades, and financial gain. But his life suggests a different metric: alignment. Living in accordance with one's values, even when it comes at a cost. He didn't disappear, he transformed. He shifted from being a public figure to being a private individual with purpose, from performing for audiences to living authentically. His legacy isn't just in the films he made, but in the choices he made, in the courage to walk away, in the willingness to speak out, in the commitment to something greater than himself. These are not the qualities typically celebrated in Hollywood, but they are the ones that endure. Conclusion: the courage to choose what matters. His story is not one of loss, but of intention. He didn't lose his career. He redirected his life. He didn't abandon success, he redefined it. In a world that constantly pushes for more fame, more money, more recognition, he chose less. Less noise, less pressure, less compromise. And in doing so, he found something many never do: peace. His journey invites reflection. What do we value? What are we willing to sacrifice? And are we living in alignment with what truly matters? Because in the end, life isn't measured by achievements alone. It's measured by presence, by integrity, and by the quiet moments that never make headlines. He understood that, and he lived it. And perhaps that is the most powerful role he ever played, not on screen, but in life itself.